Shabbat Shalom. Today's parsha is entitled Beha'Alotkha, and it's taken from the book of Numbers, chapters 8 through 12, but I'm just going to be focusing on the first few verses of chapter 8, which read, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron, and say to him, When you mount the lamps, the 7 lamps will give light in the front of the lampstand. As you notice there, I've parenthesized a few Hebrew words. The first one in the second line is when you mount, or when you rise up, go up, different translations. Beha'Alotkha, which is simply the title of this parsha. And the second one there, highlighted in yellow, is give light, or more accurately translated, shine, and it's ya'iru. And the last one, most of you may know, the lampstand, ha-menorah, the menorah, the lampstand. Now I want to focus on that second word, ya'iru. But I want to take just a minute to give some background on the menorah itself. Now, no other object or symbol has been more historically associated with Judaism or the Jewish people as a whole. And even the 6-pointed Star of David, in comparison, is relatively more modern than the menorah. And some of you may know what this is. This is the Arch of Titus. It's a monument that was erected to commemorate the Romans' defeat of the Jerusalem temple. And right there is a very famous relief. Up close, some of you may recognize this. It's pretty famous. It's depicting the Romans going into the temple and taking out various artifacts from there. And prominent among there, as you can possibly see, I'm not sure if it's better up there, is the menorah itself. And that's why historically there's been one and the same association. It was a depiction of the Romans basically saying we've defeated the Jews, we've gone into the temple and destroyed it, etc. Now, ironically, this depiction of defeat has been repurposed as the modern-day state of Israel's symbol for their coat of arms. So what historically was a symbol of defeat has now been repurposed as a symbol of victory. In fact, that's the specific depiction that they've taken from the Arch of Titus for the coat of arms. So needless to say, the menorah is very central to Judaism. And why is that? Well, in this parsha, we're told how God instructs Moses to tell Aaron to light the menorah. In Exodus, there's given instructions how to construct it, solid gold, etc. But here he's telling Moses to tell Aaron to light it and given its purpose. It's very easy to overlook its purpose when we just see the object without any light emanating from there. But that's why I wanted to focus on that word, ya'iru, to light, to give light, to shine. Now, because this is so central to God's truth, unfortunately, it has its detractor. Now, I know Doug will eventually get to this in his commentary of 2 Corinthians, but I want to address one verse in chapter 11, verse 14, which reads, For even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. He recognizes the truth of this, and even from the beginning, when he lied to Adam and Eve, telling them that should they eat of the fruit, they will be as God to know good from evil, deceiving them and disguising himself. Now, many of you may know I attended the University of Judaism, and I always qualify I'm not Jewish, but one of the courses I took there was a course titled Intro to the Zohar. Some of you may know the Zohar is a central text to what is known as the Kabbalah. We didn't study the modern-day, New Age, feel-good, self-help Kabbalah with red bracelets and Madonna. We studied the historical Middle Ages, Renaissance history of it. And one of the texts that we used was a trilogy called The Wisdom of the Zohar. I wanted to read you just a little bit of the intro to that. The doctrines of the Kabbalah attracted the attention of Christian circles in the early Renaissance period. By the end of the 15th century, several texts had been translated into Latin, and keen and serious interest was aroused that led to the formation of an actual movement. The orientation toward the ancient world and the desire to discover the truth in all areas of human culture beyond the framework of Christianity prompted Christian scholars to examine Jewish sources and began to study the Hebrew language and Jewish literature. The Kabbalah was, for various reasons, that part of Jewish literature which was nearest to the spirit of the age. The Platonic revival and the pursuit of mystical experience and knowledge of the occult were important elements in this swing toward the Kabbalah. As a result of this surge of interest, the Zohar entered the sphere of Christian scholastic speculation, and its influence began to impregnate European culture. And one of the big proponents of this was a gentleman by the name of Pico di Mirandola from Italy. And one of the things that aroused a storm against him was his view that no knowledge was more likely to prove the divinity of Jesus than that of magic and Kabbalah. The missionaries tried to demonstrate to the Jews the truth of Christianity on the basis of a sacred book written by the rabbis of the Talmud, and so persuade them to change their religion. Now, he wasn't without his detractors, and one of his opponents, a rabbi, had stated of him, he took pains to demonstrate to them that all its methods and principles constituted the basic truths of their own faith: the Trinity, the Incarnation, the virgin birth, the name Jesus, original sin that caused the death of the soul, and the death of the Messiah, and so on. Now, my point isn't to focus on the history of the Kabbalah, but it's just to illustrate that the enemy has always tried to deceive and has always tried to guise himself in some type of secret path or insight into God that otherwise isn't revealed. Now, unfortunately, this type of Jewish apologetics and missionizing was used then, and unfortunately even still today, as a Jewish objection to coming to faith. The idea that Christians would take what was otherwise a revered text and manipulate it to try and convert Jews is still seen as a type of trickery, a type of magic, a type of immediate rejection of the gospel. So from the garden to even here, the idea that Jews tried to convert was seen as some type of magical trickery. Now, that's not to say that Jewish Kabbalism isn't without its own paths of deceit, but that only reinforces my point that whether Jewish Kabbalism or Christian Kabbalism, the enemy has had centuries of practice disguising himself in some type of deceit. So what does Messiah have to say about these types of ideas? In the book of Mark, chapter 4, verses 21 through 23, we read, "And he was saying to them, 'A lamp is not brought to be put under a basket, is it? Or under a bed? Is it not brought to be put on the lampstand? For nothing is hidden except to be revealed, nor has anything been secret, but that it would come to light. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear.'" Further in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 27, "What I tell you in the darkness, speak in the light. And when you hear whispered in your ear, proclaim upon the housetops." In Luke chapter 8, verse 16, "Now no one after lighting a lamp covers it over with a container or puts it under a bed, but he puts it on a lampstand so that those who come in may see the light." Now, this isn't some kind of secret or occult or hidden magical gospel. We are to proclaim it from the housetops that anybody who hears it has ears to hear. And finally, in the book of John, chapter 1, verse 4 through 5, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it." Now, I want to just wrap this up by asking two things, just for you personally. One is, how is your prayer life? Are you praying without ceasing? I implore you to pray for discernment that you're not deceived by an angel of light, by Satan's disguises to trick you in any form. We don't have to even look to Kabbalah. There are so many errant doctrines out there on TV, on the internet. I don't have to list them all for you. You're probably pretty aware of them. So I implore you to pray for that discernment. And also, what is your life like between Shabbats? From one Shabbat to the next. It's great and beautiful when we come here together. But in that interim time, are you emanating that light? Ya'iru. Are you shining the light of truth of the Lord? Shabbat Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betuchenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.